He is Shumi Nagaremono.
Hello, I'm Shumi Nagaremono, the hobby drifter, and Transformers has got to have one of the most interesting histories of any toy line. Cobbled together from different Japanese robot series, the Transformers as we know them were American characters. But once the line began to wind down in English-speaking countries, Japan picked up the ball and ran with it. As a result, there were plenty of Japanese exclusive figures, and even the figures that were released in the US were sometimes given a huge makeover for Japan. I was born a bit too late to get in on the ground floor of Transformers. By the time I became interested, all of the characters from the show, which was already finished, save for syndicated reruns, had long since disappeared from store shelves. But in 1988, Hasbro would release an all-new version of the original Autobot leader and call it Powermaster Optimus Prime. You know that one toy that you remember from your childhood? This was mine. So, when I got online in the mid-90s and learned about all the cool Transformers that were only released in Japan, it wasn't long before I stumbled upon Takara's answer to Powermaster Optimus Prime, Super Ginrai. Even though I'd call it Super Ginrai for like a decade. Even after I moved to Japan and started learning Japanese, I didn't know I was mispronouncing it until I tried to buy one from a bewildered toy store employee. The Japanese version of the figure was one of those toys that I just kind of assumed I'd never own. It was prohibitively expensive for a part-time restaurant worker, and it only showed up on eBay every few months or so. But then, completely out of nowhere, Takara announced that they were going to reissue the deluxe version of the figure in 2002. It was the first and last reissue from the Transformers Masterforce line. It was $110 from Big Bad Toy Store, and to this day is the only Transformer I ever pre-ordered from an importer.
This little guy is Ginrai. He transforms into the Godmaster engine that enables his Transdector to transform into robot mode. This is Ginrai's Transdector. It doesn't look as much like a real truck as the original G1 Convoy did, but it's a decent alt mode, it looks realistic enough, and it's pretty faithful to the TV show's animation model. The Japanese version has always had shortened smokestacks. Only Hasbro's Powermaster Optimus Prime had elongated ones. Ginrai plugs into the front of the cab, enabling the Transdector to take on a robot mode very similar to the original Optimus Prime's television show animation model. And, of course, it's very close to the Masterforce animation model, right down to the truck cab windows in the back. It shares the original Optimus Prime's inability to hold its weapon straight. Considering how much larger Ginrai is than most of the Destrons, I doubt the designers figured that'd be much of a problem. Later on in the series, Ginrai would get a new trailer. It's a tradition that Takara would carry on, even if they had to make the trailer out of cardboard, and Hasbro would seemingly fight tooth and claw against. But the joke's on us, because Japanese dwellings aren't known for their spaciousness, and trailers take up a lot of space. You can arm the trailer to the teeth. Surely this will not draw any undue attention when driving down Japan's crowded highways. Thanks to the new tooling on the trailer, the guns could theoretically fire straight forward without shooting off Super Ginrai's robot fists. The trailer turns into a battle platform, perfect for making a stand against invading armies of C-trons or Destron headmasters. Ginrai can mount the small gray cannons, although that begs the question of what's going on with the Transdector body if Ginrai's not inside of it. The whole thing combines together to form Super Ginrai, featuring die-cast metal, more paint apps, chrome, and retractable blue fists. This is a Transformer worthy of being leader of the Autobots. Unfortunately, this guy's a Cybertron, and he's matched up against Black Zarak and Overlord, who are large enough to swat him around like a fly. Fortunately, help is on the way. Help in the form of another robot called, and I kid you not, God Bomber. Yes, God Bomber. That is the single most metal name of any Transformer. In vehicle mode, God Bomber forms a second trailer for Super Ginrai's truck form. It's not very convincing. In robot form, God Bomber looks like a bunch of cheap plastic and chrome parts thrown together, and there are wings because Japan. You can clip a few chunks of God Bomber onto Super Ginrai to make the God Breaster mode.
God Breaster. Takara, I love you, but you make it so hard sometimes.
But nobody in the history of ever has bought God Bomber for any reason other than combining with Super Ginrai to form God Ginrai. In this mode, Ginrai can stand toe-to-toe with Overlord. Fully armored, this was one of my holy grails. And there's only one tiny problem with it. A nitpick, really. Almost not even worth mentioning, but for the sake of integrity, I have to point out that God Ginrai absolutely sucks. Look at this thing. Just look at it. It looks like Optimus Prime standing on a box peeking over a TV with his dad's mittens on. I don't regret the purchase because Super Ginrai is every bit as excellent as I'd hoped, but God Ginrai takes a great Transformer and makes it get dressed in the dark. But there's a fix. Just move God Ginrai's fists down a bit further. They'll be loose, but they'll hold. Earthquakes haven't made mine fall off yet. Plug the wings into the now open shoulder holes, and change the feet around so they stick out a bit farther. It's still not ideal, mostly because the huge chrome chest still looks like Energon Optimus Prime on a Diet Coke and kettle chip bender, but I think it's much better than the alternative. I like it.
I loved Powermaster Optimus Prime. I didn't care that it wasn't exactly like the original, because it was better than the original. For the most part, it even looked more like the on-screen character. I was 6 years old, and no kid has ever been happier with a toy. And God Ginrai is the best possible version of Powermaster Optimus Prime. I'm glad I bought it, and I hope Takara was happy that somebody bought it. This was not a big seller. Some online retailers had them for as low as $35 years after their original release, and they completely wrecked the market for the original. But since I collect what I like, that's not much of an issue for me. I'm Shumi Nagaremono, the Hobby Drifter. Hasbro, Takara, America, Japan, Optimus Prime, Convoy, Ginrai, all contribute to ongoing happy hobbying.
He is Shumi Nagaremono.